Hi, I'm Matt Finch, and this video is about the Swords and Wizardry fantasy role-playing game, just to let people know what it is, because it's got a pretty large following on the internet, and a lot of people stumble across it on the internet and don't know exactly what it is, because that's not usually what people are talking about when they're discussing it. So just as a very, very brief introduction to what the game is, it's a tabletop fantasy role-playing game, Elves and Dwarves, that is based very, very closely on the original version of Dungeons and Dragons, the rules for that game, as it was done and published between about 1974 and then up to about 1977 and 1978. Um, the One of the problems with the original books, aside from the fact that they're fairly expensive now, is that the organization of them is a little bit difficult to follow for somebody who is just coming at it cold. It was the very first role-playing game that was ever published, and as a result, it was their first stab at how to describe the rules of a fantasy role-playing game. And people have gotten better at that over the years and over the decades. So what I did when I was putting these rules into the new format was to basically put it into the organization of a more modern role-playing games structure so that it's easier to read through. And the other thing about original Dungeons and Dragons is that the rule set is usually seen as being incomplete by modern gamers because it's very open-ended, and it was designed so that a particular gaming group could add or subtract things to it. So, for example, the game actually doesn't have an initiative system, and here I'm assuming that the people watching the videos are at least a little bit familiar with role-playing games, and all of those people are probably sitting back and gasping and saying, there's no initiative system. How do you even play that? And, they did make a reference to a prior game that had been published by TSR, but it really that reference doesn't give you very much helpful guidance because it's not entirely consistent or compatible with the rules of OD&D that were published. And so what I've done in Swords and Wizardry is basically to include a complete version of the games that I think of as being a little pathway through the possibilities of the rules, so that if you're coming at it cold, you're going to be able to have a complete set of rules to play with, and then throughout the book, this is the complete Swords and Wizardry complete. Throughout the books, you're going to have several examples of how people either modified those rules or how they went to some sort of complete alternative because there was not a complete description in the original rules. So that you can, basically it's a combination of an introduction to the game, and also it shows the mechanical side of how you can really toggle it and tailor it to your particular gaming group for whatever method it is that you find the most exciting and the fastest paced or whatever. Um, those options are drawn from the possibilities that people used most commonly back in the proverbial day. They are, to a large degree, a little bit based on wargaming, but I've also thrown in several of the more modern approaches that people have used in later versions of the game, because there's nothing wrong, obviously, with backtracking a little bit, unless what you're doing is trying to historically play Dungeons and Dragons the way that it was done in 1974, and that's not a bad exercise to try, but it's obviously it's not focused on necessarily getting the best gaming experience for your group. So I definitely suggest that when you're using Swords and Wizardry, you apply lessons that you've learned later on in gaming to tailor it to the way that you want to play. The game relies a great deal on the Dungeon Master. Uh, there are decisions to be made about rules, probabilities, how to handle something that are usually covered in the rules of later games. The benefit of the way that it's done in Swords and Wizardry is that allows you a lot more variation. A wall is not necessarily a particular number. It doesn't have particular modifiers for when it's, slippery or hard to climb or something like that. And the idea is that the dungeon master or game master is going to come up with something that's the probability that really applies to the way that this wall is, and then is going to describe the basic probability to the players so that they can decide whether their characters want to try it, rather than having the players look at a set of numbers and sort of think of that wall that's a visual image, and then translate that into numbers rather than into a picture of a wall. Just to take one example, I mean, obviously there are things like pit traps and ambushes and all kinds of things fall under that general rubric. I guess the last thing to mention here, other than the fact that it is a very open-ended system, is what does the support for the game look like out there in the communities? And Swords and Wizardry has been around for many, many years, and as a result, there are a lot of resources available on the internet for it, and also products, paid books and so on and so forth that come from Frog God Games, which is the center of Swords and Wizardry Complete. So I'm going to mention, I think, 5 of the major resources that are out there. There are many more, but those 5 major resources, first of all, is froggodgames.com, just all, Frog God Games, and then the .com, and that'll take you to the homepage of Frog God Games. Frog God Games sells books for 3 different systems. 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons is the one that's currently out right now. Swords and Wizardry, which is what we're talking about, and also the Pathfinder role-playing game system. So you do have to, whenever you look at a product, you have a choice of which version of the system you're looking at. But for the most part, whatever it is for one game system is going to be available for the others. The second resource that I'd mention is the stuff that I did back before joining up with Frog God Games. And all of that is on lulu.com, Lulu.com. And in order to get there, you need to go to lulu.com/spotlight/Mythmere. And Mythmere is Mythmere. I'll probably put these links in the description of the video just for convenience so that somebody can hotlink, but just in case I'll say what they are. The third one that I would mention, there is a Swords and Wizardry group on Facebook. That one, if you're searching, is just Swords and Wizardry, and the "and" is not the word spelled out, it's the ampersand signal. Another major Facebook group for Swords and Wizardry is the Swords and Wizardry Legion. And that one, they somehow managed to get a really good link. Their link is just facebook.com/groups/capital SWL and then small letter, Legion, so that it spells out Swords and SWL Legion, SW Legion. The last one that I'll mention is that there's a Discord channel for discussion of Swords and Wizardry, which is faster moving than Facebook. I'm not going to go through the whole detail of how to get onto a Discord channel, but for those who are familiar with the Discord channel, the invite link for it when you want to join a channel is the https://discord.gg small letters / and here we go, capital HKUZ, lowercase f, uppercase U, smaller case v, and that's the invite that you put in when you want to join a Discord channel. So that's really the very, very quick summary of what Swords and Wizardry is and how to get a little bit involved in the community. Later videos that I'll do will have a lot more detail, but I wanted to do one that was just pretty quick and an introduction to it. So once again, I'm Matt Finch. I'm the author of Swords and Wizardry. I'm a member of Frog God Games. And I hope that you take a look at Swords and Wizardry and enjoy it. Please also join, subscribe to the channel and like and share on Facebook and so on and so forth, so that I can, get a wider range of people looking at it rather than the people who already know about the Facebook and the Discord channels, because the people who don't know are the ones who are probably going to benefit the most from the video. So please do all the good things that are required to publicize a video. And by the time that you are able to see this, hopefully there'll be a couple of more short videos on the channel. thanks so much, and that's the end of this one.